Let me start looking. Good day. Welcome to the Africans in America podcast. With me is Weruche Ozoka.
Hey everyone.
Hello, Weruche. Um, a few days ago, we got a very big Jangantuan news as regards to Africa. Once the world's richest man, formerly the world's richest man, and still among the world's richest men, Bill Gates, said he will be giving almost all his wealth to Africa. And we know Bill Gates has had a long engagement with Africa. But in this time now, he has not limited his engagement to Africa to just health. He says he wants African young people to also be involved in education and AI and innovation. But he still
Mhm.
says that innovation should try and help the healthcare sector because he has been particularly interested in healthcare in Africa, malaria, childbirth, and other things for that. He has used the instrument of the Bill Gates Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to promote. He has always focused on Africa for a greater part of his philanthropic life.
Right.
Yeah. Now, Weruche, how do you see this news?
Yes. I mean, it's very good news. It's very noble of him. I mean, it's not surprising either, because that's what he's dedicated most of his wealth to. I mean, this is someone who could have been a trillionaire by now if he had kept all his wealth to himself. But has chosen over the years with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to contribute. And it's very noble of him as well, considering the focus, a very high percentage of the money is going to Africa. It's very noble of him because he recognizes the need in that region. He recognizes the need for maternal health care. He's always contributed to that. He recognizes that we have a very long way to go in Africa when it comes to um, meeting the needs of the less privileged. And so, again, to answer your question, I think is really noble. I'm not surprised coming from, that could come from someone like him because his life has been dedicated to this pretty much, or should I say, most of his wealth. He's given, with his wealth, he's given access, and yeah, I think it's a noble position to play.
Yeah, I think maybe I should read a few paragraphs from a BBC report about the offer. Microsoft founder Bill Gates says that most of his fortune will be spent on improving healthcare and education services in Africa over the next 20 years. The 69-year-old man said that by unleashing human potential through health and education, every country in Africa should be on a path to prosperity. Speaking in
Right.
Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, he urged Africans, young innovators, to think about how to build artificial intelligence to improve healthcare on the continent. Yes, Bill Gates has a very close relationship with Africa. In fact, he has done more for Africa by way of philanthropy than most people
Right.
who most other even other African billionaires. We know
Yeah.
that he has the greatest scope and scale, but he has been the one who has really put Africa in focus. And this is by every means necessary. This is noble. He also has engagements with agriculture, but his own prescription for agriculture in Africa is a little bit not as successful as what he has had in healthcare, his impact in healthcare, and now he has extended it to education. Indeed, it's a very noble one. $200 billion.
Indeed. Hmm.
$200 billion is a lot of money.
It is,
Will
yeah.
you be coming up with any ideas so that you two can scramble for some Bill Gates money?
I wouldn't I wouldn't do that. You have to leave.
Maybe
You have to leave
maybe
those
you invent one
resources.
AI tool that will.
No, it's not done that way. You have to invest those resources with those that need the resources, for those that need the resources. I mean, one of the things is he recognizes that the fact that in this past administration dismantled US aid, he recognizes that not only has Africa been lagging behind, not only have we not had the resources that we need, but there's an actual need now to invest. Now, when you think of what was lost based on the dismantling of US aid and compared to what he's contributing, which is a whole lot, about 200 billion in 20 years. And so we're looking at like about 9, 10 billion a year, correct? Because it's like 99% of his wealth and all that. I'm seeing his recognition, how he identified that even though it might scratch the surface, it doesn't really compared to what the US was doing through US aid and the funding, but at least it makes a difference. It does, impact in some way, shape, or form. And so that's noble, is that he recognizes again the role of both the United States and the philanthropists and philanthropists across time and across the globe. He recognizes their role in making a difference for the world, especially for the grossly impacted, should I say, which would be Africa, which would be women's health, which would be maternal health, particularly
Maternal health,
and
particularly.
all
Those
of
are
that. So
the
he recognizes. And so I think it's sort of, he's even made comments about, what the Trump administration, sadly, with Musk too, and,
yeah, we'll
what
get to Musk.
the
We'll get to Musk.
dismantling.
Don't be in a
No,
hurry.
it's a reference. It's a reference. He recognizes that, we don't necessarily have to discuss Musk. Dismantled US aid and the effect it's going to have in the long term in that region. So he recognizes that, and I bet that's what facilitated his action as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we should remember that Bill Gates is the biggest non-state contributor to the World Health Organization. And it's the World Health Organization has always been at the forefront of health media, promotion and disease
Correct.
mitigation in Africa, particularly in the third world. And he is a major contributor. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is a very big contributor. He has had soft spot for Africa. He believes that's where most of the I know of a campaign he ran once in India where the campaign was a simple one: build toilets and you improve healthcare for a lot of people. And the Indian government seized upon it, and with the partnership, they tried to build better toilets because a lot of the diseases that you found in populated places like the slums of
Mhm.
Mumbai and all those things were mainly
Correct.
from the fact that they didn't have access to good places to ease themselves. Yes, but if we look at the world going forward now, the world is really changing. I live in Austin, Texas here, and it's interesting that he's talking about education. At this time, education is very key and critical, especially when I look at the fact that the world is leaving us behind as in software development and hardware development. The world is now about AI, cloud computing, coding, and it's just about IT. And this is a man who he got his wealth from IT. It continues to run. He continues to earn money
Correct.
from his Microsoft shares. I will think that maybe if he starts to build institutions that will help Africa to have a core competence also in IT. Healthcare is good, but who is going to help Africa to have competence in AI, competence in coding, competence in robotics? These are the things that shapes the world, and I think that his allocation of resources here now, focusing just on healthcare, because Africans are no doubt about it, we fall short on all the metrics or human development metrics. That is a fact. But if you stay in Austin, Texas, and you see the impact on the Indian community in America, that knowledge and access to IT know-how is giving them,
Mhm.
I would have thought that maybe if Bill Gates can help set up some Bill Gates schools of IT in African capitals like Nigeria, like in
Mhm.
Lagos, like in Abuja, like in Nairobi, it will really help in spurring, this development because the world is leaving us behind. The kind of things that people are doing now with artificial intelligence. Look at the Chinese. In fact, the world is polarized into two poles now. It's just the Chinese and
Correct.
Americans, and then other actors like the Indians. So, what do you think about this? My suggestion that you should focus on IT.
I mean, you have to understand it, pivoting just like that. You have to understand that this has been his focus for a very long time. Disease eradication, poverty reduction, right? Maternal health. And I don't see why he would, yes, there's the need for, the development in terms of IT and all that, but based on the rankings, I don't think that is a priority, quite frankly. You understand? Disease eradication is key. We have to eradicate those diseases. We have to preserve the lives of people. If people are dying in high numbers, just due to things that could be managed, why would he want to focus on just developing the IQ or developing access? Let there be life first. Let there be access. Let there be the ability to feed and have at least 3 square meal a day. So I think it's more noble if he focuses on those poverty reduction focuses and health, healthcare. I think, and again, I think the focus is that that's been his area of contribution. Yes, he's an IT specialist. Yes, he's done all that, generated most of his wealth from IT. I think that his focus on saving lives is quite a noble one and frankly makes sense. So there are people who are helping in terms of IT. There are other people, but his focus is on saving lives. When you talk about Maslow's chain of this thing, you start with the lowest on the rung is what he's focused on, as
Your
opposed to
belly,
as
your stomach first.
you're being alive first. It's not even about Bele. It's about being alive. If people are dying from polio and all these diseases that can be, that are as a result of poverty and not having access and being in, you're not going to just start from the top to educate the kids when they can't have 3 square meal.
Yeah.
It's not development doesn't work like that. You have to first secure them, the family, let the women who are even having the children be alive because them being alive will help the family. And so these are the focuses that, when you really think about it, yes, gaining access to, always remember there's agriculture. Agriculture plays a key role in providing resources and financing. So
Mm.
it's not like they're completely at a loss if there's no coding. Coding is first world lingua, quite frankly. It's first world, it's really first world. As much as we want to bring the third world into, IT, the truth is they have to have the basics first. And so I think that's where he's coming from.
Okay.
That would be my thought.
There was a BBC report also that I saw recently that highlighted the fact that maternal death during childbirth is very high in Nigeria,
Correct.
and
In
these are the
Africa.
kind
Mhm.
of disasters is trying to mitigate with this. But
Yes.
he's not the only billionaire that has concerns for Africa. While we all know about Elon Musk, there's actually a South African billionaire called Patrick Song. And Patrick Song
Mhm.
was so critical to South Africa during the COVID time when he opened a vaccine factory in this thing. He has, I think he's there with you in LA. Maybe you may bump into him one of these days. He
Mhm.
owns the Los Angeles Times.
Okay.
He's a billionaire and he owns from a biochemical industry. And he has, I think he has built some of these biomedical industries in South Africa. Whether he can extend the services to being pro bono and philanthropic, it's what I really don't know. But at this point, it's pertinent to recognize that these billionaires they should more use their platform more for the development of Africa. While Bill Gates have chosen
I don't
to.
know about should. I don't know about should because I mean, who are we to give instructions? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's as easy as saying you go and be a billionaire yourself so that you too. You know what I mean? It's as easy as saying that. So I don't know that we should use the term should, but I hear what you're saying. I mean, there's a needs assessment. These are needs assessments done over time. And again, these are the focuses. You can't take on everything. He
Mm.
can't jump from health and poverty reduction, right, to now let me do technology and development and access. No, you can't burn yourself at both ends. You have to be effective at what you do, and one of those ways is to concentrate. I was going to say centralize. That's not the term. You must concentrate so that when you focus on this side, someone else focuses on some other part of it, and then at some point over time, the more billionaires we have in the world, which I believe we're going to have much more billionaires based on the AI. We haven't done, there's been no analysis done, like in-depth analysis done just yet. But over time, within like a 5, 10, 15, 20 year
Mm.
period, we're going to reflect the number, how many more billionaires were added thanks to the invention of AI, right? I'm trying to say something. Over time, there will be the concentration in that development area. But for now, we do need to eradicate those diseases. We do need to reduce poverty. And
Yeah,
I can totally, totally understand. In fact, here's what I even think. It's too noble that he will give up 99% of his wealth. How many people are doing that? Tell me how many people you know
mm.
are giving away pretty much all their wealth. You know what I
Well,
mean? I think it's noble.
he had a campaign where he called a giving pledge, where he co-opted Warren Buffett to join the giving pledge, and Warren Buffett has
Mhm.
actually said he will give um, all his wealth when he dies to Bill
Mhm.
Gates Foundation to
To
manage.
continue the work,
Yeah,
to
but
continue the work.
that
But he
brings
did
us to.
say
Yeah,
He
go
did
on.
say Bill Gates Foundation is coming to a complete close in 2045, which is
Yes.
again 20 years. So even though Warren Buffett gives his money, it also has to be disbursed by that time. So
Okay. It brings us to the responsibility, the primary institutions, the primary governments that are supposed to have even been taking care of the healthcare. The healthcare needs of Africans is so short. It falls so short, and we still, while it is short in every metrics, it is short in the ratio of doctors to patients. It is short in the availability of healthcare professionals. We keep losing them. We keep losing the few ones that they have in Africa to the forces of of immigration. They want to leave. But even before leaving, what is the cause of this wanting to leave? The healthcare situation, as the governments that are supposed to be in charge of these things, we need to call them to account. We need to call them to say, look, why is the healthcare situation in Africa so bad that permanently for over almost 70, 60 years after independence, we still fall short of all the human development indexes. There's almost no state apart from countries like Mauritius and Botswana and possibly Morocco. Almost all the states of Africa are underwater regarding human development index, be it maternal, be it anyone you call. All the matrices that you find in the the what is this United Nations Development Index that they try to get us. We are really falling short of it, and the government is letting the people down to the point now where people are now dependent on people like Bill Gates. What's your point on
yeah,
that?
yeah. The dismantling. Let's start with the dismantling of U.S. aid. That shaved off 1 billion when it came to, I believe they called it the Gavi vaccines. Just
Yeah,
that alone. Just that
yeah, the
alone.
vaccines for AIDS and HIV/AIDS and all that.
Correct.
But
Amongst
before you continue,
others.
that is still an aid scheme. It is not from the government. It's still an aid scheme.
Yes, but back to what you said about the government, particularly. Obviously, what just took place is not, doesn't make sense. Over the years, you give it to the United States with over 200, I believe it's 200 billion that has been contributed, right, to US
Mhm.
aid over time, right? Not one region. I mean, America, I will give America her flowers for even over the years being a part of it. What we're focused on now is why did they see the need to put a stop to it? It was making a difference in the world. A lot of research projects were dependent on the money. And with these research projects come the answers that are
Mhm.
needed to help alleviate whatsoever it is that's already going on. And so my point is, I think your question was, how do I see the government's position? In the past, I was happy with the position. Right now, today, no, I'm not. And that's why Bill Gates did criticize Musk, which I also think is why Elon has backed away from the government efficiency thing. He's beginning to see how his work really has dismantled the world's most vulnerable. In addition to the fact that his business is taking a toll, right? It's taking a toll on his business as well, right? And so I think that I'm not trying to make an argument for Elon Musk in any way, shape, or form, but I think that at some point you begin to realize indeed what your contribution to the destruction of the world's vulnerable has been. And I think that it's just sad what's playing out, what has played out, and all of that. I will give America her flowers. In the past they did carry the US aid for a minute, right? And that made a difference. But what we're talking about today is the fact that it's not we need the help. When I say
Yeah.
we, I mean the world needs the help, and it's not there anymore. So yes, philanthropists like Bill Gates have taken responsibility upon them to help make things, and hopefully that act is going to, encourage others to become a part of it, and that's really it. Really, that's really it.
It's sad
It's
that
sad to.
yeah, it really is sad that our governments, though they are doing their best, that they really let us down. Whenever we have outbreaks like Ebola, we have to depend so severely on the international community. The responses, the weaknesses of our healthcare systems. And not to talk of
Mhm.
how the corruption impacts on ability to deliver infrastructure, and people will be doing operations
Correct.
and electricity will go off. This is the report I was talking about. We are talking about vulnerabilities now. One
Hmm.
one death every 7 minutes. The world's worst country to give birth, and this is in a country that is supposed to be a rich country, Nigeria. One death every 7 minutes. Nigeria is the
I know.
capital of maternal death in the world. It's just this kind of,
Correct.
according to the most recent UN estimates for the country compiled in 2023, the figure of 1 in 100 women die in labor or following days. This is a sad reflection of the healthcare in
It
Nigeria.
is.
Supposedly at one point a few years ago, Nigeria was supposed to be the richest country in Africa. And these are
Yes.
the issues that may have made someone like Bill Gates to say, look, we can't just leave it to these governments to do. We need to intervene. And
Yes.
and I'm sure he was a strong advocate of instruments like Gavi, instruments like the US aid, and
Correct.
all these
I
other
mean,
all these other policies that directed healthcare funds, both for research. One thing too we also forget that is that Africa really needs research as to this. Recently, there was a research that led to the malaria vaccine. And you know that
okay.
malaria kills over 500,000 kids in Africa. The malaria
Ebola.
vaccine it's such a very powerful one, and this research needs to be led by African researchers, but they need funding, and that's where the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation comes in. These are the kind of
Yeah,
funding.
look at the research that had to do with Ebola over the
Mhm.
years. That research ended up making a difference, especially during the period when If you remember the guy that had Ebola and went into Nigeria and eventually died.
Yeah, the
He was
Liberian
bringing
guy, he
Ebola.
brought
Yes,
Ebola to Nigeria.
that took it to Nigeria. And because of the expertise and the knowledge, they were able to contain it and mitigate it. And it didn't spread across the country and all of
Mm.
that. And so, yes, I
That
mean,
would have been a
one of the
disaster.
questions I have, it would have been a huge disaster. Another question I have is, I hope, or more like one point I want to notice, I do hope that Bill Gates' position is going to only inspire more, um, philanthropers or philanthropists to commit their wealth, as they call it, at the sunlight. Is it the sunlight or the,
Their
when
sunset
they're
years.
sunset? Yes, yes. I wish they can do that, like Zuckerberg and Buffett and all of that. I wish they can. What's his name of Amazon? I just hope that it inspires them to do that because the reality is that the world needs more help. Like we have noted, Bill Gates has zoned in on maternal health and poverty reduction and disease eradication. That's key. That's good. You can't scatter yourself for you to be able to see the impact. Impact is necessary. And so focusing on at least those three will make a huge, huge difference over time. While someone else focuses, maybe Zuckerberg might pick up the one of coding and all of that because he is into IT as well.
There's one I
So,
always say, and you just say, why should they? I think Zuckerberg should take responsibility for helping African diasporans to sort themselves out in America. That will be a very
but
big
they're
one
not
to start.
priority really when you think about it, because the truth is the access to America. I know that's funny, but the access to having access to America means that something is going right for them. So they're not priority on the ladder of who needs attention,
Mm,
right? After people on the diet, more like people in the homeland, especially the uneducated, especially the people who don't have the resources, they are priority,
yeah,
and alleviating their way of life, by maybe when we talk about the coding or the development aspect. Let's imagine with Bill Gates focused on maternal health and poverty reduction, and then somebody else focuses on that. That helps lift the family up over time. And so
yeah.
they are priority more than
Some should
anything
even
else. So
focus on infrastructure. Recently, there was this report of almost 500 people being washed away by flood in Nigeria. And that you can
yeah,
imagine if you're always vulnerable to flood, that's where dams come in. We really don't have a lot of philanthropists who help in supporting governments to build infrastructure. We know that healthcare is important, but
hmm
sometimes big infrastructure projects are very important. When they do this, they look
here's
for
the thing.
profit too.
They look for profit. Here's the thing. As much as we say, again, I have to play devil's advocate, as much as we say, let them help governments. The truth is we've gotten to a point where our governments need to sit up and help the citizens.
Mm.
There are questions. Sometimes when you hear like what Bill Gates is doing, which is really noble, you have questions from normal people who say, well, if we keep giving this lifeline, at what point is the government going to take responsibility? And that's the truth. We're not trying to say the aid is not needed, the help isn't needed, but how does it affect democracies? How does this help affect democracies? We're at the point where we do need the government to take accountability and become more helpful, because a lot of the way things have been, a huge reason why things have been the way they are is because there's been that loophole where government goes unchecked, especially in African regions, right? And that's why you hear about billionaire, trillionaire, um, um, government officials who are able to afford to buy up property abroad, and you wonder where did they get that money from, right? Meanwhile,
Corruption.
people are suffering back home, and so that becomes the catch 22. To what extent or to what level should we continue? No, when I say we, I mean, should people continue to swoop in and save, right? to what extent, while the government just sits back and just watches and goes unchecked. We must have at some point the ability to check the government, check government spending. It's very important. We're
Mm.
not arguing as to the rates of, in terms of like the GDP and all of that. We're not arguing that yes, they're always they still remain at a lower point than the West. But what we're simply saying is whatever it is we have based on our resources and whatever we have in Africa, in the individual regions and countries, what is the government doing with it? So, government, until we address government spending in Africa and, do our best to, how do I say, curtail, curtail that spending, right? We're always going to be needing the Bill Gates of the world to swoop in. There has to be that. You see what I'm where I'm going with this? I'm only trying to play devil's advocate. I'm on the one hand saying it's a good thing that he went in and he did what he did, or he's doing what he's doing. On the other hand, we have to really check government spending. What are they doing with all the resources that
Yeah,
they've had over the years?
yeah.
We're not going into saying, okay, what happened in Babangida's era or what happened in Obasanjo's era. No, it's already happened, it's done, it's gone. Let's move forward. But going forward, what are those bodies that have been put in place to curtail and then also check government spending? Because that's the only way it's not going to be a leaking valve.
Yeah.
The more they put in, the more incentive these people have to continue draining the pot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, let's
This is
just.
just me.
I
This is
get
just me
it.
and my processing.
I just hope that the government will be more responsible to the people of Africa. That's the
Yes,
least we deserve of them. We
yes,
we
yes,
are we are very grateful to Bill Gates for having Africa in mind. We hope that the people who run Africa can also have Africans in mind, the way that those ones who come from make their wealth somewhere else have Africa in
true.
mind. I want to thank you for following us to this point in the program. We
Thank you.
apologize. We have had radio silence now for a few days. We apologize for that, but we are back and we'll continue to output our highly impactful videos. I see you don't need to tell me that these videos are highly impactful because the subscriber base is growing. You're showing us your love, but we need more of that love. Please make
Indeed.
comments, hit the like button, subscribe, and share.
Thank
We
you,
thank
everyone.
you so much for being with us today. Thank you. Please, anybody who has a church nearby, near him, go and thank Bill Gates. Pray that nothing happens to him so that somebody will not come and say they are changing the wheel. No, we don't want all that kind of thing. You should see it through and let that money go to Africa. Any money going to Africa is
Indeed.
money. We thank him so much. So find a church, a mosque, a synagogue, anyone near you to pray for good Bill Gates' well-being and good health. Thank you
Indeed.
very much for being with us to this point in the program.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.
Mhm.